Hello viewers, it's been a long night and feeling a bit tired. Prepping. Well, one of the things about prepping is you've got to know when you when you have to evacuate when things get really dangerous. Here in Australia we've got a lot of bushfires burning, particularly in my state in Queensland, and there have been several evacuation orders issued for communities up north, where the big ones are. Yesterday we had a fire break out on the highway about 2 or 3 miles south of us. I live in a rural area. I could smell smoke yesterday morning, but we couldn't see the smoke. Not from that direction anyway, but we had a lot of smoke from other fires burning in the state over the top of us as well. So around about 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, it's now the 4th of December here in Australia. Yes, for most people around the world that's tomorrow, and the world is still here. We heard a number of rural fire units and police heading off down the highway to the south of us, and at that time we weren't aware that there was a bushfire very close to us. We couldn't actually see the smoke from it. So around about 5 o'clock I took a drive down there, had a look at it. The road was, the highway was quite busy. They were still letting traffic through, and the police were there for traffic control if it was needed, and there were about 12 rural fire brigade units on the scene. The fire was located in a plantation pine forest, and as some of you may know, pine burns real well when it gets the heat under it, particularly the sap, quite often called fat wood, and it was well ablaze, not just at ground level, it was in the treetops. They were doing water bombing. The fire units were making a stand on the highway, and they were looking across the highway to the west with air surveillance to see if there are any spot fires breaking out. Okay, not long after that the alert changed to yellow alert, which means watch and wait, which is one step down from get the hell out of there real quick or evacuate. Prepping. Okay, because we live in a rural area, got a dirt track off to my left here, and we've got a lot of bushland on the other side of the road. Now people might going to say, well, why don't you do something about it? Well, can't. It's on private property for a start, and some of it is actually owned by the local authorities, usually the easement on the road, and over several years we've tried to do something about it to reduce the bushfire hazard here. So what does that mean? Well, it means that in the case of evacuation orders, we're not going to stay and fight the fire to save our house, nor do we expect rural firefighters to risk their lives coming down this dirt road, which is barely wide enough for one of their rural fire trucks, to risk their lives saving our house too. So prepping for evacuation. Sometimes shit happens. Doesn't matter how well you're prepped. There are disasters or disasters in the making, or potential disasters on their way, where you don't have the choice, you have to evacuate. And I've heard stories fairly recently, you know, people, big weather systems, you know, hurricanes, cyclones, that sort of thing, typhoons, they won't evacuate, which means they're putting their lives at risk, and emergency services, search and rescue and all the rest of it. So last night we stayed up, did a watch and wait. We took turns at sleeping. The fire looked like getting out of control. They barely had it under control at the time. Fortunately we didn't have any heavy winds or high winds last night, which sort of helped out a bit. They're supposed to send out text messages to people in the area to evacuate. When I was coming back, I went to the rural fire station just across the highway from us and spoke to one guy there. He was just manning the radios, and I asked him, I said, which way is it moving? He said, we just don't know at this stage. We're keeping an eye out for spot fires, and actually one spot fire broke out closer to us on a dirt road. Was one of our evacuation routes. It still is, down the mountain. So, but there was a spot fire there, so another 2 units had to be sent there. The bushes tend to dry. So, prepping. It's not always about standing your ground and defending your home against natural disasters. You've got to use common sense. You look at your surroundings, situational awareness. Yes, I could smell smoke yesterday morning, and there are times you've got to make that decision, hard as it is, that you've got to evacuate. There's no choice. It's either that, lose your lives, and the lives of people that are trying to get in there and save you. It's just basic common sense. It's a simple fact of life. In fact, the fires up on the central coast of Queensland, read on the news yesterday, the death toll so far is 1. Why? Because this young fellow decided to try and save his house. Didn't work. So it's something to keep in mind. There are times when you will need to evacuate in times of disaster. It doesn't matter how well prepared you are, as long as you are prepared to evacuate if the need arises. Okay, hope that helps people out, gives some people something to think about. And the main thing is, don't panic. It's the worst thing you can do. If you've got your family, you've got your friends at your house, whatever, panic is very infectious. It spreads very fast. And when you need to work together as a team in an evacuation situation or whatever, you need them to work as a team, not as a bunch of chooks running around with their heads cut off because they're panicking. Something to think about. Thank you.